one day we had a meeting and Jackie said we could get this shul because they're folding up and James Street and we can get it, and it's X number of dollars, which I don't remember right now, whatever, and we decided to take the leap.
Yeah. And James Street was an old Orthodox
It was an old
shul
Orthodox
in
shul.
Centertown, but
That's
on
right.
the edge of what was old Centertown.
That's right. And it was a lovely little shul, and I will tell you that we really scrubbed our fingers to the bone. Everything was shiny and polished, and the kitchen was fixed, and we really worked hard to make that very special. And it was.
It was very special.
It was very special.
When I was president, it felt like being head of a small company which was constantly on the verge of bankruptcy.
Yes.
And there was so much time involved in just trying to keep afloat. We decided to go into running bingos.
Bingo.
And it was a very divisive issue. I mean, people resigned from the temple because of it. But
Yes.
we really couldn't see any way that we could manage to keep going if we didn't.
Yeah.
And it was not an easy choice.
Yes.
Because none of us were really in favor of inviting people to bingo, because it was mainly poor people who came to try and enrich themselves.
Yes.
And you know,
Yes.
I don't know. Anyway,
The only one in my family that actually belonged to a shul was my grandmother.
Okay.
So, we would go visit her in the shul during the high holidays. She belonged to one of these old congregations in Toronto, which had an upstairs bima, classic, just absolute classic. And the James Street shul was a classic.
Okay.
It was really
one of
quite
them.
beautiful. It was small. It didn't serve our needs very well, because there wasn't much in the way of outside space other than the
Sanctuary.
the sanctuary.
Yeah.
But there was the basement, and there was a youth room actually in the back. But it seems to me that people regarded it, one of two ways. There were those of us who liked it, and those who couldn't stand it.
Oh, right.
And they couldn't stand it because, they had left traditional, Orthodox communities because they couldn't stand it, okay? And they joined Reform, because they needed to join a more open, expansive type of environment. And to them, it was a throwback.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there were people who did not like it.
Yeah.
And there were, a number of people who did.
Yeah.
So whether it was all, it was a deal that couldn't be refused, I believe, at the time.
So we started the first celebrity auction years and years ago, and which was a major success. We had two charities that we gave money to, and I think it was 2/3, and then a third went to Temple. And then another project we did that I recall with fondness was None is Too Many. And we not only had a huge crowd at Temple Israel for the two authors, Irving Abella and Harold Troper, but we also arranged for them to be interviewed by various media in the city, and they also sold books at other synagogues. And I remember them saying to us that this venue at Temple Israel was their greatest source for selling books.
And one of the things that sort of occurred while I was at Temple was it got me a little more engaged in social action. In fact, Lily and I had the opportunity to deal with some refugees to Canada, which was part of my wife's experience as a refugee from post-war Europe. These refugees, however, were part of the Project 4000 experience in Ottawa to bring Vietnamese refugees into Canada. And at the time, the rabbi was asking for volunteers to lead groups to bring a refugee family and help them settle in Canada. Lily and I thought this would be an interesting thing to do, and the opportunity came up to bring in a family, or to sponsor a family of 8, which seemed to be a little more than we'd originally planned on, but never having done it before, we couldn't say no, didn't want to say no. And through that experience, we met a whole bunch of people at Temple and beyond Temple who were willing to work with us to help accomplish this. I don't think I've ever been involved in anything that was quite so direct in terms of social action with the synagogue since, but it's certainly stayed with me, and it's a strong memory of what this Temple community has been for us and hopefully for others.